This is GARIS, Masculist, MGTOW flyers. That is 2 3-page essays on the themes of masculism and MGTOW, written by and read aloud by Prof. Dr. Hugo GARIS. This is flyer number 25, entitled Ammunition for Heckling Fluffie Feminists. Description. This flyer provides suggested statements that MGTOWs and masculists can use in public when fluffy feminists are dumping on men. Flyer itself. Ammunition for heckling fluffy feminists. This comment provides suggested statements that MGTOWs and masculists can use in public when fluffy feminists are dumping on men. Fluffy feminists think they have a monopoly on gender discourse, which MGTOW/masculists need to disabuse them of. Here is some suggested ammunition that may help in that regard. Quote, "You fluffy feminist hypocritical bitches are indirectly wiping out the population because you've taken over the divorce courts and made marriage toxic for men. So 70% of young men in the US refuse to marry and have kids as a result, which in a mere century will wipe out the US population. That makes you fluffy feminist bitches genocidal criminals." Quote, "To you young women in the audience, you can blame these fluffy feminists for the fact that you are finding it virtually impossible to find a man who's willing to have a kid with you and help pay for it. The fluffy feminist vermin you see on the stage is the reason why you can't get a man, can't have a kid, the cause of you living a lonely, manless life. These fluffy feminists have taken over the divorce courts and made marriage toxic for men. So men avoid marriage and fatherhood, letting women rot on the shelf. So express your hatred of fluffy feminists and help wipe them out. And while you're at it, put real moral pressure on the male feminist gender politicians who passed the divorce laws in the 70s that allowed fluffies to financially massacre their ex-husbands. 1 in 4 married fathers in the US gets financially massacred by a divorce." Quote, "You fluffy feminist hypocritical bitches are the first category of women to be rejected by the MGTOWs and the masculists. We won't go near you because you are repulsive to men. So you can continue to rot on the shelf to extinction because no man wants you. You are hypocrites because you push for equal rights for women but not for men. You still expect to be able to parasite on a man's money so that you fluffy feminist bitches can sit on your fat ass after a divorce in his house with your kids whom you have taken away from him after the divorce. And you expect him to pay for child support for kids he barely sees. And if you're a fluffy, as many of you feminists are, you expect him to pay for you so you can continue to parasite off his money after the divorce, the way you did before the divorce. You want your cake and to eat it too. You're hypocrites. You want equal rights for women, but not for men. You are hated by MGTOWs and masculists, so we punish you by ignoring you, letting you rot on the shelf to extinction." Quote, "Fluffies and fluffy feminists are immoral, parasitic, manslaving vermin, whom the masculist/MGTOWs are in the process of wiping out by refusing to have relationships with them. They can rot on the shelf. Manslavery is slavery. Slavery is a war issue. The MGTOWs and masculists are at war against the fluffies. The primary political goal of the masculists, who are much more political than the politically passive MGTOWs, is to wipe out fluffydom. Fluffydom is manslavery. The masculists are the 21st century equivalent of the northern abolitionists of the 1800s in the US. The abolitionists were so disgusted at Negro slavery, they invaded the South to stop slavery and to keep the US from being broken in two. Masculists and MGTOWs have the same hatred of fluffy manslavers and strive to wipe them out by refusing to give them kids." Quote, "You're a gender politician. You are the most hated of all the enemies of the MGTOW/masculists. It's politicians like you who made marriage toxic for males due to your changes of the divorce laws in the 70s that were made so biased in favour of women and so toxic to males. You don't give a shit about men's interests, so we men will block BLOC. We will block vote you out of power. If you don't men fair the gender laws, for example, divorce law reform, passing the para, etc., then we MGTOWs and masculists will wipe out the whole population by refusing to reproduce. As the sex war really heats up and the population crashes, with the young generation only reproducing a third of their number, then in a mere century the US population is wiped out. You will be the prime targets for assassination, since it is you gender politicians who have caused this population crash by having made divorce and hence marriage so toxic for men. So you men fare the marriage laws, you pass the para, you remove legal discriminations against men, or sooner or later you'll be assassinated by hate-driven men who can't get gender justice, or by hate-driven women who can't get a man and babies. New section. I suggest you use such statements at public meetings to teach the public of the ideas of the MGTOWs and masculists. Make the public conscious that a catastrophe is looming, namely the US population being wiped out in a mere century due to the fact that 70% of young men under 35 in the US today refuse to marry and have kids. They have gone on strike. They see marriage for what it is, a form of manslavery by fluffy bitches who expect men to work for women. Now that women can work, given the contraceptive pill, household gadgets, higher education, etc. Now that women can work, they must work. Anything else is parasitism on men's labour. Fluffydom is to be wiped out. Women must study FIP, that's financially independent person, majors at high school, that is math and the sciences, and at university, so that they become FIP adults earning a good salary, so that they don't expect to manslave and parasite off some man in their 30s when they want to have kids. Fluffies are vermin, immoral, parasitic, manslaving vermin, whom the MGTOWs and masculists are in the process of wiping out by refusing to have relationships with them, not paying for them, not giving them babies. Fluffies are vermin. Cheers. Prof. Dr. Hugo de GARIS. Email profhugodegaris@yahoo.com. Website profhugodegaris.wordpress.com. YouTube channel name de GARIS, Masculist, MGTOW, Flyers. Ciao.